The moon hung low over Ayegun, casting long shadows that danced like restless spirits. Crickets chirped in uneasy rhythms, silenced every few minutes by the call of a distant owl. It was on such a night that little Temilola disappeared. Her mother, Ajoke, had gone to fetch water, leaving the girl playing in the compound. When she returned, Temilola was gone. No scream. No sign of struggle. Just an eerie quietness that swallowed the entire village. By morning, the whole of Ayegun was in an uproar. The elders gathered beneath the iroko tree, faces drawn tight with dread. It was the 5th year since the last disappearance, and the village's curse cycle had returned like clockwork. Chief Olewu, ancient and slow-spoken, emerged from his hut wrapped in a heavy red wrapper. He lifted his staff and declared what he always did: the spirits of the forest have taken another child. Their anger is deep. We must not question them. Ajoke wept like a woman unhinged. Her screams tore through the morning mist, awakening babies and silencing gossip. She refused food, tore her wrapper, and swore upon the gods that she would find her daughter or die trying. People watched her warily. Madness had touched others before in this same way, and Ayegun had no place for madness. Not in times like this. Her neighbor, an old widow named Momakeji, whispered strange things that day. "I've lived through 4 of these vanishings," she said, eyes squinting at the chief's compound. "And I always hear drums. Drums that play when no one else hears. Under his hut, the ground hums like something alive." Ajoke's tears dried for a moment. She listened. That night, when all had gone quiet, she placed her ear to the earth. And faintly, just faintly, the drums began to play. The next morning, Ajoke journeyed to the edge of Ayegun, to the forest where the oracle, Baba Fadiyai, lived in a hut wreathed with charms and bones. She had avoided him in the past. His eyes saw too much, but desperation knows no fear. The oracle's compound was quiet, save for the rustling of the tall grass and the buzzing of flies around drying herbs. "The drums have spoken to you," Baba Fadiyai said before she could utter a word. His milky eyes stared through her. "But you must understand, Ajoke, drums do not lie. Nor do they play for nothing. They beat for blood, for power, and for secrets." Ajoke knelt before him. "Where is my daughter?" The oracle reached into a clay bowl and scattered cowries. He hissed. His fingers trembled. Beneath the chief's feet, he muttered, "But do not dig, unless you are ready to bury truth." That night, Ajoke returned to the village with the oracle's words heavy on her chest. She wandered past the chief's compound, pretending to admire the moonlight. From the shadows, she saw movement, 3 figures emerging from Chief Olawu's hut, their faces masked, their steps silent. Each carried something wrapped in cloth. The next day, under the guise of bringing palm oil as a peace offering, Ajoke entered the chief's hut. The old man was seated, eyes half closed, fingers tapping rhythmically on the armrest. A faint drumming echoed below. She peered around the room until her gaze settled on a locked wooden trapdoor at the back, half concealed beneath a goatskin. As she turned to leave, the chief's voice stopped her. "Curiosity," he said, his voice thin and sharp, "has devoured better women than you." The village was abuzz with preparations for the Festival of the Moon, a celebration held once every 5 years, the same time the children vanished. Women painted walls, young boys rehearsed dances, and the drummers tuned their instruments. But beneath the color and music, a quiet dread stirred. Ajoke watched from her doorstep, clutching her wrapper tightly. She saw the chief's guards unloading large drums from a cart. These drums, unlike the others, were bound in red leather and etched with strange symbols. She noticed something else: the smell. Like dried blood and old secrets. Mama Keji shuffled to her side. "That festival was never for the gods," she muttered. "It's for the pact. To keep something quiet, something old." Ajoke's heart pounded. She had to get beneath that trapdoor. But first, she would need help, and not just from the living. Ajoke gathered courage and returned to Baba Fadiyai. She begged for answers: why the drums played, why the children disappeared, why the chief's hut throbbed with secrets. The oracle relented. Long ago, the ancestors made a pact. Ayegun's peace and harvest would be preserved, but only if a child was offered every 5 years. That drum beneath the chief's hut is not just for music. It is the heartbeat of the pact. Ajoke recalled. So the chief knows. He is the keeper. The pact breaker shall face the wrath of what sleeps beneath. Back in the village, Ajoke started spreading quiet whispers. To the potter, the tailor, the young boys who knew how to sneak through the forest paths. She would need allies. If the chief's hut was the heart, they needed to stop the drum. 3 days before the festival, Ajoke met with her small group in secret: Mama Keji, a hunter named Dare, a potter named Sei, and 2 boys barely old enough to carry a machete. None of them trusted the chief anymore. They planned to enter the hut on the night of the festival when all eyes would be on the masquerade dancers. Mama Keji brought her late husband's map of old Ayegun, one that showed a hidden tunnel leading under the chief's compound. He was once one of the diggers, she explained, voice trembling. They buried more than secrets there. The group swore an oath. They would uncover the truth, no matter what waited beneath. The night before the festival, Ajoke visited the graves of the last 5 missing children. She lit 5 candles and placed pieces of yam and honey beside each grave. Then she whispered, "Guide me, protect me, help me find Temilola." A cold wind blew through the trees. The flames flickered, but did not go out. A soft hum filled the air, low and rhythmic, like drums beneath the earth. At home, she dreamt of children with hollow eyes and ashen skin. They stood in a circle around the chief's compound, pointing to the trapdoor. When she awoke, her cheeks were damp, and her hands were covered in dirt. Something, or someone, had heard her plea. The tunnel was older than the village itself, or so the map claimed. Hidden beneath a yam barn and masked with weeds, its entrance yawned like a forgotten mouth. Dare used his machete to clear the way, and one by one, they entered: Ajoke, Mama Keji, Sei, and the boys. The air was thick and damp, each step echoing like a warning. Strange symbols lined the walls: snakes eating their own tails, drums bleeding, children dancing without faces. The deeper they went, the louder the drums became. The tunnel throbbed with rhythm. Then, up ahead, a faint red glow. They hurried forward until they reached a wooden door reinforced with iron. It pulsed, like a heart, with every beat of the drum. Ajoke reached for the handle, but it burned her hand. "It's not just wood," Mama Keji whispered. "It's alive." Dare took a strip of cloth from his waist, wrapping it around his hand before gripping the iron latch. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a circular chamber lit by the red glow of firestones embedded in the walls. The floor was covered in dried blood, and in the center stood a massive drum, human-sized, stretched tight with a dark, glossy skin. Sei fell to his knees, weeping. The drum's surface bore names, etched crudely, names of every child that had vanished. Temilola's name shimmered, freshly carved. Ajoke stepped forward. "We stop it here. Tonight." But the drum began to beat on its own. As the drum beat grew louder, a figure stepped from the shadows, a tall man robed in crimson, his face painted with ash and blood. His eyes glowed faintly, like coals buried in earth. "I am the drum keeper," he said, his voice a haunting harmony with the drum's rhythm. "You are not welcome here." Dare stepped forward, brandishing his machete. But the drum keeper raised a hand, and the blade burned hot in Dare's grip until he dropped it with a cry. Ajoke stood her ground. "We seek the children. We seek Temilola." The drum keeper's face twisted with sorrow. "They are neither dead nor alive. They are part of the pact. To break it is to wake what sleeps beneath the earth." Ajoke clenched her fist. "Then let it wake." The drum keeper, moved by Ajoke's defiance, led them to a side chamber. Inside were old scrolls, bones, an artifact of power. He spoke of the founding of Ayegun, how the first chief struck a deal with the forest god Orodan, trading blood for protection. "Each drumbeat keeps Orodan asleep," he explained. "But now, the balance falters. The pact grows weak." Mama Keji pointed to a carved symbol on the wall. "This is the seal of ending. If we destroy the drum and mark this seal with the blood of the pact maker, will Orodan be bound again?" The drum keeper nodded. But only the chief's blood can finish it. Back above ground, the festival had begun. The villagers danced, unaware of the truth unraveling beneath their feet. The chief, cloaked in ceremonial robes, stood atop a raised platform, his staff tapping in rhythm with the distant drum. Ajoke's group split, Mama Keji and Sei stayed behind to guard the chamber, while Ajoke and Dare emerged into the night, masks on their faces. They melted into the crowd. When the fire dancers ignited their torches, Ajoke whispered to Dare, "Now." They pushed through the crowd toward the chief's platform. Ajoke threw off her mask, drawing gasps from the crowd. "You take our children. You feed the drum. You keep us bound to a god that should have been buried." The chief's face darkened. "You know nothing. Without the pact, Ayegun dies." Dare lunged and tackled the chief. The two wrestled, but Dare's fury prevailed. With a swift blow, he caught the chief's hand and filled the god with his blood. Chaos erupted. Guards charged. The villagers screamed. But Ajoke and Dare slipped away into the shadows, god in hand. Back in the chamber, the drum throbbed wildly, as if sensing its doom. Ajoke dipped her finger into the chief's blood and marked the seal on the wall. A deep groan echoed through the earth, and the chamber shook. The drum keeper stepped forward. "It is done. Now flee." The group raced through the tunnel as it collapsed behind them. As they emerged into the night air, the chief's compound burst into flame. The drum's sound faded, then stopped. Ajoke fell to her knees, breathless. "Temilola, please." From the smoke, a small voice replied. "Mama." Ajoke turned, her heart caught between hope and fear. Through the thick smoke, a silhouette emerged, small, trembling, but alive. Temilola ran into her mother's arms. Ajoke wept, holding her tightly. Behind them, more children stepped into the light, dazed and confused. Sei and Mama Keji helped guide them away from the burning compound. The villagers watched in stunned silence as the lost children of Ayegun returned. The chief, though wounded, tried to rise. "You've doomed us all," he rasped. But no one listened. The people had seen the truth. With the drum destroyed, a strange stillness settled over Ayegun. No bird sang. No breeze stirred. The village felt suspended in a breathless moment. Fear mingled with relief. The drum keeper stood at the edge of the ruins. "The god stirs. The seal holds, but barely." Ajoke approached him. "What more must be done?" He pointed to the forest. "Oriden's essence still lingers in the roots. You must cleanse the land, or he will rise again." Ajoke, Dare, and a small group ventured into the sacred forest. Mama Keji remained in the village to tend to the returned children. The forest was dense and alive, branches whispering secrets. Even in daylight, it felt like midnight. They saw the heart tree, where the pact had been first sealed. It pulsed with unnatural life, its bark red and wet like flesh. "We burn it," Dare said. "No," Ajoke replied. "We must unbind it." Ajoke began to sing an old song her grandmother once taught her, said to soothe angry spirits. The tree trembled. Roots writhed beneath the soil. A low groan echoed across the woods. The others joined her, their voices weaving into the air. The heart tree cracked, its sap bleeding into the earth. Oriden's voice rose in a roar of rage and anguish. But they did not stop singing. A final note echoed into silence. The heart tree split down the middle, revealing a glowing core, a spirit's heart. Ajoke stepped forward, pressed her hand to it, and whispered, "No more." Light exploded, and then, nothing. When they woke, the forest was quiet. Peaceful. The unnatural pressure was gone. Ajoke looked to the sky. The curse had ended. The rain came softly at first, like a blessing. The villagers gathered around the forest edge, watching as the heart tree smoldered and crumbled into ash. Ajoke stood before them, clothes soaked, heart burning. Mama Keji joined her. "It's not over yet. The spirit may sleep, but the damage remains." They returned to the village, now eerily silent. The elders were gone, fled or taken. The village would need new leadership, new rights, and a new beginning. Ajoke knew the weight would fall on her. In the days that followed, the people gathered in silence to mourn and rebuild. They carved a new drum, not to summon spirits, but to honor the living. The children danced again in the village square, tentative smiles on their faces. The drum keeper came to Ajoke once more. I must go. My duty ends with the silence. You have brought light to a place long buried in shadow. Ajoke nodded, tears in her eyes. Go well. And thank you. One evening, Sei found a strange seed in the ashes of the heart tree. It paused faintly in her palm. Ajoke and Mama Keji studied it carefully. A remnant of Orodan, Mama Keji whispered. They debated whether to destroy it, but Ajoke had a different idea. We plant it, not to grow, but to remember. Let it be watched, not worshipped. So they buried it in the center of the square, beneath a stone inscribed with the names of the lost. For the first time in years, the wind returned to Ayegun. It rustled through leaves, cooled tired skin, and carried the songs of healing. Children laughed again. Elders began to speak of renewal. Ajoke stood before the village with Temilola at her side. Let the forest teach us, but never again on us. We are Ayegun, not by pact, but by people. The villagers cheered, voices rising like the wind. Months passed. The land healed. Ajoke was chosen as the new chief, not because of bloodline, but because of bravery. She wore no crown, only beads and a mantle woven with the stories of the past. They stayed by her side. Sei began teaching the children the old songs with new meanings. And Mama Keji sat beneath the memory stone every evening, humming to the earth. Ayegun had faced the gods and survived. Now it would thrive. One misty morning, a stranger arrived in Ayegun. Cloaked and barefoot, she carried a carved staff and a basket of herbs. Her name was Adis, and she claimed to have walked from the edge of the world to find the village that silenced the drums. Ajoke greeted her with cautious respect. Why are you here? Because your silence woke something deeper. Other villages are hearing drums now, drums that never beat before. Adis spoke of cursed towns and forest shadows echoing with unfamiliar rhythms. The breaking of Ayegun's pact had loosened ancient seals across the land. Ajoke felt the weight of her choices. She gathered a council there, Sei, Mama Keji, and Adis, and decided to journey beyond Ayegun to learn more. They would follow the rhythm, trace the pulse of the gods that stirred in distant places, and ensure that what happened in Ayegun did not repeat elsewhere. Their journey took them across rivers and plains, to a village half buried in red sand. The people there were silent, their eyes blank. A single drum sat in the center of the town square, untouched but humming with power. Adis warned, this is not Orodan. This is a different god, one that feeds on silence. Ajoke reached for the drum, but it recoiled with a growl. The gods were not done. The world had changed. Ajoke realized the truth, Orodan had been a guardian once, corrupted by fear and hunger. These other spirits had similar origins. They were not to be slain, but understood, healed, or bound with new, honest pacts. She offered a chant of peace to the silent drum. The hum softened. The villagers stirred. A new era was beginning, not of worship through fear, but of respect and balance. Ajoke and her companions returned months later. Ayegun had grown, new huts, new gardens, and laughter everywhere. The village greeted them as heroes. But Ajoke knew better. She had become a traveler between worlds, a keeper of balance. She laid her walking stick beside the memory stone and whispered, let Ayegun sleep in peace. I will carry the echoes. That night, as Ajoke lay beneath the stars, a sound drifted through her dreams, a drumbeat, slow and steady, like a heart remembering pain. She woke with a jolt. There was already sitting up. Did you hear it? He asked. Ajoke nodded. It's not from Ayegun. It's from beyond. The villagers, too, stirred in the dark. Though the pact had ended, the echoes remained. Ajoke stood in the square, hands raised. The gods may be quiet, but the land still hums. We must be ready. Mama Keji emerged, her face grave. It is a warning, not a call. Something stirs in the east. They journeyed eastward, to a market known in whispers, Ajoke, the city of traders who dealt in charms, relics, and sometimes, souls. The place thrummed with energy, bright and dangerous. In a shadowed stall, a hunched woman offered Ajoke a mask carved from spirit wood. "This once bound a river god," she rasped. Ajoke declined. But the woman grinned. "Then beware the river. She remembers." That night, by the riverbank, they saw the spirit, tall, flowing, and faceless, walking on water. She did not attack, only watched. Ajoke bowed low. "We will not bind you. We come with stories, not chains." In a glade of glassy leaves, they found the oracle tree, a gnarled being whose bark bore the faces of those who asked questions. Adis approached and laid a hand on its trunk. "What lies ahead?" The tree whispered in many voices. "Death. Birth. A drum carved from bone. A song never sung." Sei frowned. "That sounds promising. Or disastrous," said Dare. Still, they pressed forward, guided by omens and echoes, their path winding through forgotten lands. They came to a village swallowed by sandstorms. The children there were pale, with eyes like old stars. They played without sound and vanished when called. One girl appeared beside Ajoke, placing a finger on her lips. "The drum is watching." That night, the storm raged. In the morning, Ajoke found symbols etched into the dunes, warnings in the old tongue. The desert god, banished long ago, sought a new voice. They left a gift, a flute carved from driftwood, and moved on. In a ruined shrine, buried beneath layers of earth and memory, they found it, a drum made not of wood or hide, but bone. It pulsed with a rhythm that made their teeth ache. "This is not meant to be played," Adis said. But Sei, drawn by its song, touched it. Visions struck them all, of gods crying, of mortals kneeling, of pacts etched in marrow. Ajoke raised her voice in song. Her voice overpowered the beat, silenced the drum. The shrine trembled, then sighed. They buried the drum in salt, swore to guard its secret. Back in Ayegun, the stone over the seat split. A sprout, twisted and black-veined, pushed through. Temilola was the first to notice. "Mama, the tree is crying." Ajoke called the elders. The seed had survived. And with it, a fragment of Oriden's soul. "We must not kill it," she said. "But we must teach it." She began daily rituals, prayers, stories, songs of peace. The tree responded, its leaves grinning. Balance could be taught. Word of Ajoke's deeds had spread. From distant villages, people came, some in peace, others in fear. They held a council beneath Ayegun's sky. A chieftain from the north scoffed. "You silence one god and think you rule them all." Ajoke stood firm. "I do not rule. I remind. Gods need us as much as we once needed them." The council agreed to share knowledge, guard old sites, and train new drum keepers, not to control, but to converse. Temilola woke in tears. "The spirits are fighting again." Ajoke held her. "Where?" "Not here. In the sky." That night, a red comet streaked overhead. The old signs returned, howls at noon, birds flying backwards, rain falling upward. The balance was shifting again. Ajoke called her companions. "We rest no longer." Deep in the forest where Orodan once ruled, Ajoke built a circle of stones. One for each fallen god. One for each pact broken. She sang the first song, the very first her grandmother taught her. One by one, others joined. The spirits gathered, not in anger, but in curiosity. When she finished, there was silence. Then the forest breathed. Peace, fragile but real, took root. Years passed. Temilola grew into a drumkeeper of her own kind, bold, wise, and kind. The tree at the village center bore fruit golden as sunlight. Ajoke, older now, walked the village each morning, humming songs into the soil. The drum still played sometimes, not to summon or warn, but to celebrate. Children danced, unafraid. Ayegun lived. Not because of gods, but because the people had learned to listen, to silence, to story, and to one another.